المرسلون قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب أليم قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون وجاء من أقصى المدينة الرجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجره وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون وأتخذ من دونه آلية إن يردني الرحمن بضر لا تغني عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعد من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون ألم يروا كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وأعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملت أيديهم أفلا يشكرون سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالأرجون القديم لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذريتهم في فلك مشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن نشأ نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا نطعم من لو يشاء الله وطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون ونفخ في الصور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لتمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون ومن نؤمر ننقص في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي لها إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلية لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم ير الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحيي الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون.
Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. Surah Yasin was recited and Surah Fatih is requested for the following marhumins: Marhum Muhammad Yusuf Khalfan, Marhuma Sikina Bay Mahmoud Yusuf Khalfan, Marhuma Sikina Yusuf Khalfan, all marhumins of Khalfan family, marhumins of Imam Jafar family, marhumins of Akbar Ali Hassan Ali Ganji family, and Kul Arwahul Mu'minina wal Mu'minat, Surah Mubarakatul Fatiha.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم إني أسألك وأتوجه إليك بنبيك نبي الرحمة محمد صلى الله عليه وآله يا أبا القاسم يا رسول الله يا إمام الرحمة يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا يا أبا الحسن يا أمير المؤمنين يا علي بن أبي طالب يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله عند الله يا فاطمة الزهراء يا بنت محمد يا قرة عين الرسول يا سيدتنا ومولاتنا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيهة اشفعي لنا يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها المجتبى يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها اشفع لنا عند يا أبا عبد الله يا حسين بن علي أيها الشهيد يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها اشفع لنا يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن الحسين يا زين العابدين يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي أيها الباقر يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا يا أبا عبد الله يا جعفر بن محمد أيها الصادق يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا يا أبا الحسن يا موسى بن جعفر أيها الكاظم يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن موسى أيها الرضا يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا يا أبا جعفر يا محمد محمد بن علي يا أيها التقي الجواد يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن محمد أيها الهادي النقي يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها الزكي العسكري يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها اشفع لنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع يا وصي الحسن والخلف الحجة أيها القائم المنتظر المهدي يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا حاجات التواصل يا سادتي وموالي إني توجهت بكم أئمتي وعدتي ليوم فقري وحاجتي إلى الله وتوسلت بكم إلى الله واستشفعت بكم إلى الله فاشفعوا لي عند الله واستنقذوني من ذنوبي عند الله فإنكم وسيلتي إلى الله وبحبكم وبقربكم أرجو نجاة من الله فكونوا عند الله رجائي يا سادتي يا أولياء الله صلى الله عليهم أجمعين ولعن الله أعداء الله ظالميهم من الأولين والآخرين آمين رب العالمين صل على محمد وآل محمد الفاتحة
حسين الغريب غریب الحسین حسین شہید شہید الحسین حسین الغریب الغریب الحسین حسین شہید شہید الحسین دہائی دہائی خدا را دہائی یہ دشت بلا میں ہے کیسی تباہی بہایا ہے کس نے یہ خون محمد قیامت یہ دائی ہے کس نے الہی جوانوں بزرگوں کو مارا گیا ہے شہیدوں میں شامل ہے ننھا سپاہی حسین الغریب الغریب الحسین حسین کیا جشن برپا یوں اہل حواس نے شہیدوں کی لاشوں پہ دم کے بجائے جلا ڈال آل محمد کے خیمے سکینہ کے منہ پر تماچے لگائے جو بیمار تھا اس کا بستر نہ چھوڑا نبی زادیوں پر بھی در چلائے حسین الغریب الغریب الحسین حسین اٹھی اپنے مرکز سے بنت محمد سیاہ شب کی چادر میں چہرہ چھپا کر گئی کربلا میں تو اس نے یہ دیکھا ہے بوسیدہ کرتے میں ایک لاش ہے سر بدن سارا تیروں سے چلنی پڑا ہے لہو میں ہے ڈوبا ہوا سارا پیکر حسین الغریب الغریب الحسین حسین شہید شہید الحسین حسین الغریب الغریب الحسین حسین شہید شہید الحسین محمد وان محمد صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم
صلو علی النبی عاشور کا سورج کہہ دے گا خاموش کنارہ کہہ دے گا جو بات کے اصغر کہہ نہ سکے بہتا ہوا دریا کہہ دے گا کس طرح جوانی خاک ہوئی، لیلا کا کلیجا کہہ دے گا، بہتے ہوئے آنسو کہہ دیں گے، اترا ہوا چہرہ کہہ دے گا، احمد کی نواسی کا عالم اٹھتا ہوا پردہ کہہ دے گا، کس طرح چھینی سر سے چادر، جلتا ہوا خیمہ کہہ دے گا، کس طرح گئے اصغر رنگ میں آباد ہوئی کیوں کر تربت، بانوں کی اداسی کہہ دے گی، اجرا ہوا جھولا کہہ دے گا، اکبر کی اجل آئی پہلے، یا برچھی کا پھل نکلا پہلے، شبیر کی قسمت کہہ دے گی، اکبر کا کلیجا کہہ دے گا، امت کے لیے اصغر آئے، پانی نہ ملا پیاسے ہی گئے، چھپ ہوگی اگر ننھی سی لہد، اجرا ہوا جھولا کہہ دے گا، مشکی زچدہ پانی تو بہا، میت نہ ہٹی تربت ہی بنی، دریا کی ترائی کس کی ہے، عباس کا روزہ کہہ دے گا، عاشور کا سورج کہہ دے گا، خاموش کنارہ کہہ دے گا، جو بات کے اصغر کہہ نہ سکے، بہتا ہوا دریا کہہ دے گا، اور محمد وآل محمد صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم۔
اور محمد وآل محمد صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم۔ بار دیگر سلوات۔ مختصر چند اشعار بس منقبت کے اور پھر مصائب کی طرف جاؤں گا، درود بھیجیے گا۔ وہ گھر جہاں فاطمہ کے چلتے ہیں، وہ گھر کے حکم جہاں فاطمہ کے چلتے ہیں، تمام کام وہیں سے، تمام کام وہیں سے خدا کے چلتے ہیں، وہ گھر کے حکم جہاں فاطمہ کے چلتے ہیں، اور بنا نہ لے کوئی دنیا اٹھا کے وہ مٹی، بنا نہ لے کوئی دنیا اٹھا کے وہ مٹی، یوں نقش پا تیرے ہیں گھر چھپا کے چلتے ہیں، وہ گھر کے حکم جہاں فاطمہ کے چلتے ہیں۔ قبلہ نے بھی بتایا کہ آج جناب حر کے مسائل ہوگی، تو جناب حر کی شان میں شعر، جبیں پہ فخر سے رومالے سیدہ باندھے، جبیں پہ فخر سے رومالے سیدہ باندھے، امام والوں میں ہر مسکرا کے چلتے ہیں، وہ گھر کے حکم جہاں فاطمہ کے چلتے ہیں، اے حر نہ گھبرا یہ کرب و بلا کی بستی ہے، اے حر نہ گھبرا یہ کرب و بلا کی بستی ہے، یہاں پہ فیصلے آنے ابا کے چلتے ہیں، وہ گھر کے حکم جہاں فاطمہ کے چلتے ہیں، تمام کام وہیں سے، تمام کام وہیں سے خدا کے چلتے ہیں، وہ گھر کے حکم جہاں فاطمہ کے چلتے ہیں، پر محمد وال محمد سلوات۔ چلتی رہی جو حلق پہ شمشیر دیر تک، چلتی رہی جو حلق پہ شمشیر دیر تک، مصروف بندگی رہے شبیر دیر تک، چلتی رہی جو حلق پہ شمشیر دیر تک، لہجائے مصطفیٰ میں جو اکبر نے دی اذان، لہجائے مصطفیٰ میں جو اکبر نے دی رضا مقتل میں گونجتی رہی تکبیر دیر تک مقتل میں گونجتی رہی تکبیر دیر تک قاسم کے ٹکڑے ریت سے چنتے رہے حسین قاسم کے ٹکڑے ریت پہ چنتے رہے حسین تصویر جوڑتے رہے شبیر دیر تک تصویر جوڑتے رہے شبیر دیر تک زینب کا سر کھلا ہے جو بازار شام میں زینب کا سر کھلا ہے جو بازار شام میں تکتی رہی ہے چادر تطہیر دیر تک تکتی رہی ہے چادر تطہیر دیر تک بیمار کربلا کے قدم چوم چوم کر روتی رہی ہے پاؤں کی زنجیر دیر تک ناظم ہمارا دل ہے عزا خانہ حسین ناظم ہمارا دل ہے عزا خانہ حسین ہوتا ہے روز ماتم شبیر دیر تک چلتی رہی جو حلق پہ شمشیر دیر تک اور محمد وآل محمد صلوات
So recite 5 times I am a yujibu for all those who are sick near and far, for the safety of the Muslims and the safety of our holy places, and all those in need of du'as. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعا ويكشف السوء أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه 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 ويكشف السوء اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بر حبیب خدا ختم الانبیاء محمد وآل محمد صلوات.
رحم الله من قرأ سورة الفاتحة بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء وخاتم المرسلين حبيب إله العالمين بالقاسم محمد وعلى آل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الصادقين والذين ذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا اللهم صل وسلم وزد وبارك على صاحب دعوة النبوية والصولة الحيدرية والإسمة الفاطمية والحلم الحسنية والشجاعة الحسينية والإبادة السجادية والمآثر الباقرية والآثار الجعفرية والعلوم الكاذمية والحجج الردبية والجود الثقبية والنقاوة النقبية والهيبة العسكرية والغيبة الإلهية اللهم عجل فرجه وسهل مخرجه أما بعد فقد قال الله في كتابه الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فلا وربك لا يؤمنون حتى يحكموك فيما شجر بينهم ولا تجدوا في أنفسهم حرجا مما قضيت ويسلموا تسليما. For the love of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein, sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. For the love of Fatima al-Zahra, salamullahi alayha, sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. For the hastening of the reappearance of the master of our time, sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. When you examine history, you find that 124,000 prophets have passed the Anbiya. You find each of them have had their successors, the Awsiya. You find there have been a countless number of those saints who have been close to Allah, the awliya. But throughout history, if anyone has been given the title Misbahul Huda, the lamp of guidance, that title belongs to Hussein ibn Ali. And in the way you have the sun and you have the lamp, and you find that the rays of that light emanate from the source, that when you look at the sun, you see that the rays of the sun, they emanated. You find from the lamp of guidance, these rays of guidance, they emanate that reflect the message of that source of guidance. And you find these rays that reflect that message are none other than the companions of Sayyid al-Shuhada. That we've entered those nights, that we begin to remember the companions of Hussein. Tonight we remember that individual whom in the middle of the night he says that I find myself in between heaven and hell. And he makes that decision that in one night he made his eternal decision, his eternal destiny was changed upon one night. And tonight we seek to do the same as we move throughout these days. That what is the status of these companions of Sayyid al-Shuhada? These are those companions about whom we read in ziyarat that the Imam, he says, Bi-abi antum wa ummi, that may my mother and my father be sacrificed for you, O companions of Hussein. That who is saying this line? If you and I say this line, it's something else. But Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq is saying this line. That who is the father of Imam al-Sadiq? The father of Imam al-Sadiq is also an infallible Imam. A ma'soom Imam, the son of a ma'soom Imam, is saying, Bi-abi antum wa ummi ya ashab al-Hussein. That what is the status of these individuals? That the Imam, he says, may my mother and my father be sacrificed for you, O companions of Sayyid al-Shuhada. That if these individuals within the traditions and the ziyarat literature, if they've been given such a status, you find they must have some qualities and some attributes that allowed them to reach this status. That don't we read within the ziyarat, we say, Assalamu alaikum ya awliya Allahi wa ahibba'ahu. Assalamu alaikum ya asfiya Allahi wa awidda'ahu. Assalamu alaikum ya ansar deen Allah. What do we say? We say Assalamu alaikum ya ansar deen Allah. These are those individuals. We send salam upon them, the awliya of Allah and those who have the love of Allah, the chosen ones of Allah, asfiya Allah. You find this word asfiya is the plural of safwa. What safwa means is they are the chosen of Allah. Within that time period, when you look at the etymology of this word, you find that when milk it cooks, on the top layer there's something which forms a type of cream or a type of layer. You find you call that safwa, that it comes towards the top. These individuals are the chosen of Allah. That upon one locust, the best 72 men in creation had gathered in Karbala. That if Habib was in Karbala, if he changes sides on the night of Ashura, you find that this is something which was within their will, that these individuals had something within them, that it's no coincidence that there were thousands upon thousands of individuals in Kufa. But when Sayyid al-Shuhada, he writes a letter, he writes it to Habib ibn Madahir. You know, when the Imam, he leaves from Medina to go towards Karbala, you find that there were a number of people that would join the Imam to carry out their own political ambitions. They thought that this man, that when he got to Kufa, he would get some sort of leadership and we would benefit as well. You find time and time again, there would be a filtration process that individuals would leave, other individuals would join, that the ones who were with Hussein are those 72 that are immortalized until the day of judgment. You know, on the way towards Karbala, there was a maqam which was called Zubala. At Zubala, at this maqam, at this stopping station, you find two men come from the direction of Kufa. When these two men, they come from the direction of Kufa, one of the companions of the Imam, he meets those individuals. He says, where are you coming from? They say, we are coming from Kufa. He says to him, what is the condition within Kufa? They reply by saying that we saw Muslim bin Aqil killed and we saw his body dragged through the marketplaces. He goes back towards Imam al-Hussein. He says, I have news from Kufa. Can we speak in private? If you want to understand the companions, look what Sayyid al-Shuhada says. He looks towards his companions. He says, between me and them, there are no secrets. Whatever you want to say to me, you can say it in front of them. He says to him that Kufa, within Kufa, Muslim bin Aqil has been killed. You find at that point a large number of individuals, they left the caravan of Imam al-Hussein. You see, those with Imam al-Hussein, there was something special about these 72. And this stems from their spiritual status and their spiritual state. And this is why upon this night, The topic which I want to analyze is the spirituality of the companions of Imam al-Hussein and drawing lessons from their spiritual status. You see, these are those individuals that many ulama they state that when you see their valor upon the day of Ashura, when you see their bravery on the day of Ashura, when you see all of this, do not remember the night before Ashura. That night they spend in ibadah to the extent the traditions they state that when those upon the opposite side they would hear the army of Sayyid al-Shuhada, they would go towards the tents. It would be stated that there would be buzzing from their ibadat, like in the way the bees they make the sound of buzzing. That this is that unison, this is that reality they had. And we'll examine this topic in a number of stages. From the first angle, we'll examine that how should we have our mindset when we look towards those companions in order that we can draw our own spiritual lessons. Number two, what are some of the incidents that took place on the day of Ashura and in the lives of these individuals that shows the supreme spiritual status of these individuals? From the third level, we'll look at what the textual sources, the ziyarat, literature, and the hadith say about these individuals. And from the fourth level, we will examine that what role did tawalla and tabarra, solidarity and disassociation have within the life of these individuals by examining some of the explanations and the words of Nasiruddin Tusi upon this subject, and we'll begin to try to analyze the spirituality of these men about whom Imam al-Hussein would say that ma ra'aytu ashaban ka ashabi. These men about whom the Imam says that I haven't seen companions like my companions. In a different tradition, he says, لا أعلم أصحابا أوفى ولا خيرا من أصحابي. That I don't know any companions who are more loyal and better than my companions. You know, it's stated, before I come towards the heart of the analysis, it's stated that on the night of Ashura, Sayyid al-Shuhada, he would walk in between the tents. As he would walk towards the tents, he would look at his companions. Then he would look towards Medina. He would say, oh my grandfather Rasulullah, look at my companions. He would say, oh my father Ali, look at my companions. Oh my brother Hassan, look at my companions. You would tell your companions to come, they wouldn't join. I tell mine to leave, but they don't leave. You know, at one point within that night, Sayyida Zainab, she speaks to Imam al-Hussein. It's stated that Nafi bin Hilal and Habib ibn Madahir were overhearing this conversation. Sayyida Zainab, she says that, oh my brother, have you tested these companions? Do you know these companions, if they'll be loyal towards you? Habib, he says to Nafi, oh Nafi, listen to what the daughter of Ali says about us. You find they gather all of the companions of Sayyid al-Shuhada. They gather outside of the tent of Sayyid Zainab. They say, O daughter of Ali, if you tell us to cut our heads at this moment, we are willing to do that to show our loyalty towards you. But how do we understand this reality? How can we reach a stage in our life that we have such devotion to Muhammad and Ali Muhammad? Because what we're asked of is not at the level of those individuals. Yet how can we have those qualities that we can carry out our responsibilities? The first level of this comes from the mindset through which we examine these individuals. As I mentioned before on night one, the reason you and I gather here is not for a historical lesson. Yes, the history is a part of this movement, but we need to step outside of this flaw of historicism. The reason we gather here is for our guidance. We gather here because the mourning of Sayyid al-Shuhada is an act of ibadah, it is an act of worship. And you find in the same way we have the Quran, and the Quran as history. The Quran is not a book of history. that although historical incidents are mentioned within the Quran, science is mentioned within the Quran is not a book of history, it is not a book of science, it is a book of hidayah, it is a book of guidance. In the same way, this movement of Sayyid al-Shuhada, that each of these personalities, we can examine their biographies from the external outward levels, that who were these people? Where are they from? That who are their parents? But we can also examine the qualities these people had to imply them and to apply them within our lives. For example, you take an individual like the son of Imam al-Hasan salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. You take an individual like Qasim, you find what does Qasim represent? You see, Qasim, he represents that what is the ability of a person when he loses the fear of death within his life, when he says these lines, Ahla al-maut, ahla min al-asal, that death to me is sweeter than honey. You know, it was on the night of Ashura. The Imam, he was giving the list of those who would be martyred upon the next day. You find he goes through the names, but he doesn't mention the name of this young child, this young man. You find he comes up to his father, his uncle. He says to his uncle that, am I not going to be amongst those who are martyred? The Imam says, "O Qasim, how do you find death?" He gives this answer at that moment. He says, Al-maut ahla min al-asal. It's sweeter than honey. You find this individual that when you want to take the spiritual lesson from Qasim, you take it at this moment that we were created by Allah and we are returning towards Allah. You know, I remember the incident when Malik al-Maut comes towards Ibrahim. Malik al-Maut comes towards Ibrahim to take the soul of Ibrahim. Ibrahim, he says to Malik al-Maut, "O Malik al-Maut, have you come to take my soul?" Malik al-Maut says, "Yes, O Ibrahim." You find Ibrahim, he says to the angel of death, that before you take my soul, I have one request from you. He says, because you're the wali of Allah, I'll accept your request. You find Ibrahim says, "O Malakul Maut, when you go towards Allah, ask Allah that am I not his Khalil? Am I not his friend? What type of friend takes the life of his friend?" Malik al-Maut goes towards Allah. The angel of death says, "Oh Allah, this is the reply of Ibrahim." You find Allah says, "Oh Malik al-Maut, tell Ibrahim that what kind of friend delays waiting and meeting with his friend?" You see, this is a spiritual lesson that although the history gives us knowledge, our goal isn't just outward knowledge. Our goal is understanding that we take from these days. That these are the days of a living movement, Karbala. That when other schools of thought, they have nothing to bring them back. You find it is the movement and the gham of Sayyid al-Shuhada that brings people back. You know, I say that you can teach your children to pray. You can teach them other things. But the moment the nur, the light of the love of Ali Muhammad leaves their heart, it's very difficult to bring that back. That is something which is very difficult to bring back. And it's these 10 days that give people hope of bringing them back. You know, oftentimes you see people on the day of Ashura. And you know, when we were younger, we used to call them one-timers and we'd have different names for these individuals. But it's time that we change the perspective. Instead of judging these people negatively for only coming upon one day, we should view these people by saying that if they have a connection with religion, that if they have a connection that brings them back, it's because they have the love of Hussein which is bringing them back. That if there is one thread connecting them towards religion, if there is one thread connecting them towards the mosque, that thread is none other than Sayyid al-Shuhada. That this is the power of the Imam. That don't look at people with the eyes of judgment. That isn't that night where we remember that individual whom the Imam accepted after the worst of acts upon this night? That has anyone done anything worse than what he did towards Sayyid al-Shuhada? I guarantee nobody in this hall has done anything like that towards somebody else. But if Hussein can accept somebody who comes with sincerity, why can't we accept somebody who comes with sincerity? That I mentioned that each of these martyrs, each of them represent a lesson. You find Hur, he represents a lesson as well. Hur, he represents what is the power of reflection and repentance. That you see, we have hadith that say 1 hour of worship is greater than 1 hour of reflection is greater than 70 years of worship. Now imagine worshiping for 70 years, praying for 70 years. We've only been asked to pray 5 prayers a day and we get tired. But 70 years of worship, 1 hour of reflection on the other side. If you want to see the power of 1 hour of reflection, look at Hur upon the night before Ashura. Hur could have spent that night in blind worship. He could have spent that night by saying Allahu Akbar, but the reality of Allahu Akbar didn't penetrate his heart. But Hur, he spent that night in reflection. And what did he reflect about? He reflected about the reality of Imam al-Hussein. The power of Hur's reflection is that it changed him from being la'natullah alayh until the day of judgment to being alayhi salam until the day of judgment. That the one whom mercy is removed from until the day of judgment to the one whom we send salams upon in ziyaratul waritha and ziyaratul ashura until the day of judgment. This is a lesson that we derive from Hur. Another lesson we derive from Hur to impact our spirituality is that the power and the value of etiquette when you come to the doorsteps of Ahlul Bayt. You see, Hur, after he makes that movement towards the side of the Imam upon the morning of Ashura, he says to his son, now the narrations differ whether the son was there, whether the servant was there, but you find there's multiple narrations, but one narration states that he says to his son, that, oh my son, these eyes looked at Hussein with anger, put a kerchief upon my eyes. He says to his son that, oh my son, these hands, they grab the rein towards the camel of Sayyid al-Shuhada. Tie these hands behind my back. You find this is how Hur, he comes towards the doorsteps of Ahlul Bayt. He comes with adab. He comes with etiquette. The lesson for us is that when we approach Muhammad and Ali Muhammad, we approach with etiquette. When we come to the majlis of Hussein, there is an etiquette with which we approach the majlis of Sayyid al-Shuhada. And this is a very important point. When you come to the majlis of Sayyid al-Shuhada, there is an etiquette. What is being forgotten within the 21st century is that there are etiquettes towards things. When you come to the Imam's majlis, the first etiquette is that you come with the qasd, with the intention of qurbatan ilallah. That you come with the intention that you are seeking nearness towards Allah, that this is an act of ibadah, that we have the tradition in Al-Kafi of the 6th Imam, which is found in Babul Kitman. The Imam, he says, Nafasul mahmum lana, al-mughtam lidulmina tasbih. The Imam says what? He says Nafasul Mahmum. When Sheikh Abbas Ummi as his maqtal called Nafasul Mahmum, what is it? Why is it called this? It's called this because of this tradition. Nafasul Mahmum is that sorrowful, that heavy breathing a person has when he feels sadness within him. That when you feel anxiety, when you feel worry, there's a type of breathing you do, that heavy breathing. The Imam, he says, in the remembrance of that oppression which occurred upon us, Ali Muhammad, even that breathing is tasbih of Allah. Then he says, وَهَمُّهُ لِأَمْرِنَا عِبَادًا. And sadness for our affairs is what? It is the ibadat of Allah. Then he says, وَكِتْمَانُهُ لِسِرِّنَا جِهَادٌ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. And he says, concealing our secrets is what? It is striving within the way of Allah. You know, the narrator, he says that after I heard this tradition, the person listening to the tradition, he said to me, اُكْتُبْ هَذَا بِالذَّهَبْ فَمَا كَتَبْتَ شَيْئًا أَحْسَنَ مِنْهُ. He says, write this with gold, for you won't find a better tradition than this. This tradition, it shows that when you come to the majlis, you come with this intention, you come with this mindset that you are coming to the majlis of Hussein. The second etiquette amongst the many etiquettes of coming to the majlis is that you come in halatul aza, that you come in a state of mourning. You know, many times non-Muslims, they've asked me this question personally. They said, there's one thing I don't understand, is that when you have these gatherings, we see that everyone is crying. But just seconds after crying, we see people laughing and conversing and speaking ill about others. You find this state of mourning needs to be internalized within us. I mentioned the traditions of the Imams of what they would do when they saw the moon of Muharram. I won't repeat those traditions. So you find that this and sincerity are amongst the many etiquettes of the not be there. You hear these lines, people say, if I was not here, then this would not happen in the community. That the majlis of Hussein would not be there. No, flip the line around. If the majlis of Hussein was not there, your path to guidance and salvation would not be there. You find this is that reality. And all of this, it comes from Hurra, as I mentioned, that we're taking these individuals, we're taking the historical realities and we're deriving spiritual lessons. Let's take another companion. You take an individual like Habib ibn Madahir. That if only we understood what Habib ibn Madahir was. I'll mention whom Habib is. But you find Habib is that one who represents zeal and that strong affection towards Ahlul Bayt. It's stated on the day of Ashura. A man says to Hussein, Imam al-Hussein at the time of prayer, that, oh Hussein, your prayer won't be accepted. Why are you doing this? Habib ibn Madahir is the one who looks at that individual. He says to him that you think your prayer will be accepted while the grandson of the Prophet's prayer won't be accepted. This is who Habib ibn Madahir is. That when you see this valor on the day of Ashura, there was something within the life of Habib, within his spiritual state, that allowed him to be so steady upon that day. You know, this is that Habib ibn Madahir that history records. As Habib is looking into the water, it's stated that he looks into the water of Kufa. He says that news has come to me that Muawiyah is dead. But imagine a person who's able to deduce such information just by looking at the water. After all, this was the student of Ali ibn Abi Talib. When the students of Ali ibn Abi Talib, they speak to each other, you find there is a different level within the conversation. That's why history records that one day Habib and Maytham are speaking towards each other. Habib says, oh Maytham, it's as if I see a man who is balding, and that man is killed praising his master Ali ibn Abi Talib. Maytham, he looks at Habib, he says, oh Habib, it's as if I see an old man whose back is bent, who is killed in the love of the grandson of the Prophet. You find the people of Kufa, they were overhearing this conversation. These individuals who were taught ilmul balaya wal manaya by Amir al-Mu'mineen. You find they go towards Roshaid. They say, oh Roshaid, that Habib and Maytham are talking within this manner. What is going on? Roshaid, he says, what Maytham didn't mention is that the one who is carrying the head of Habib will be paid this much dinar. That this is the status of those who held on towards Ali ibn Abi Talib, these companions of Sayyid al-Shuhada. These are those individuals that you take a person like Nafi' bin Hilal. Upon the night of Ashura, he comes towards Sayyid al-Shuhada. He says towards the Imam, O Imam, my determination, my intention, my insight says that I will never forsake you. These are those companions, name after name. You find each of them display their virtues. That you look at an individual like Burair bin Khudair. That Burair is an individual. Oftentimes we hear the name of Burair, but we don't know who this man was. You find even Tabari would write about this individual and say he was Sayyidul Qurra. He was amongst those, the best of those who would recite the Quran. This Burair, on the day of Ashura, he was seen smiling. They say, oh Burair, The grandson of the Prophet is about to be killed. We don't have any water. We are in the midst of a battle and you are smiling. Borer says that when I was a young man, I was not an individual who would laugh and spend my time in play and diversion. I won't be in such a state then in my old age now as well. The reason that I'm smiling is that I see my status within paradise. These are those individuals. Hadith after hadith says that Sayyid al-Shuhada, he told these individuals that you have no responsibility towards me. I have already guaranteed you heaven. That this is Sayyid Shabab Ahlul Jannah guaranteeing heaven. But these are those individuals that would stay with the Imam regardless. These are those individuals that it stated, if you want to understand these individuals, I'll give you the tradition of the fifth Imam. The fifth Imam, Imam Muhammad al-Baqir, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayh. The fifth Imam would say that the martyrs on the day of Ashura, that when the arrows would go in towards their bodies, they wouldn't feel pain upon that day. Now, many people, when interpreting this hadith, they didn't understand the interpretation of it. Does this mean that their pain receptors were removed? Does this mean that Allah took that away? No, if you want to understand this tradition, let's go towards the Quran. The Quran has a part within the story of Yusuf that after the wife of the economic minister of Egypt, she sees Yusuf. She is so mesmerized by the beauty of Yusuf that she throws herself towards Yusuf. After that, you find the rumor, it begins to go amongst the women of Misr that look at Zuleika. She has thrown herself towards a ghulam. She has affection towards him. Zuleika says very well, we'll show what the beauty of Yusuf is towards these women. So what she did is she invited all of the women. She placed within them fruit, and she placed in front of them a knife. As they were eating their fruit and cutting it with the knife, you find Yusuf comes out. The moment Yusuf comes out, they were so mesmerized by the beauty of Yusuf that the Quran says, "Faqta aydiyahunna," that they begin to cut their hands. But they didn't realize it because they were so mesmerized by the beauty of Yusuf. Now we come back to the tradition that those martyrs on the day of Ashura, when the arrows went into their body, they didn't feel any pain. The reality is these are those individuals who've reached the peak of submerging themselves within the beauty of Hussein, within the message of Hussein, within the reality of Sayyid al-Shuhada, that they didn't feel any pain for themselves. Whatever their movement was within the path of Hussein. These are those individuals that when Imam Sadiq was asked about these individuals and their steadfastness upon the day of Ashura, Imam Sadiq states that the veils were removed from their eyes and they were looking at their status in paradise. That this is hadith, that this isn't a fabrication, this isn't something I say in oration. You find if you go and read the traditions, this is what the traditions they state, and this is the reality of these individuals. But how did these individuals reach such a status? You find these are those individuals that within their life, they maximized and elevated the concept of tawalla and tabarra, solidarity and disassociation. Tawalla, of course, it means having love and holding on to Allah, His Prophet, and the Ahlul Bayt. Tabarra means disassociating from their enemies. Oftentimes when this discussion it comes up, it's a historical discussion. But you find Nasiruddin Tusi, he speaks about these different aspects in the development of the soul of the human being. And when you understand these different aspects, not only will we be able to elevate ourselves, but we'll be able to understand these companions. He states that when the soul is at the lowest level, the animalistic level, there are two things you find within the soul. The first, you find shahwa. The other, you find ghadab. You find desire on one side, you find anger on the other side. And both of these function as a do and a don't button. That if we didn't have desires, we wouldn't be able to live. That we need the desire to eat to fuel our bodies. We need to procreate. We need other things. But at the same time, ghadab is something which is natural. Ghadab is that don't button which would push you away from dhulm and other realities. As in Islam, when it teaches man that you will not be punished for having anger, but you will be punished by your anger. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, look how strange anger is. Its beginning is madness, its endpoint is regret. That Amir al-Mu'mineen, that as doesn't the Imam say in Nahjul Balagha, that Kalamul Imam, Imamul Kalam, that the words of the Imam is the leader of all words. The Imam says this is what anger is. And you find at the lowest level, the soul, it has these two realities, desire and anger, shawq, shahwa, and ghadab. But you find as a person, he develops himself. That shahwa within him, it turns into shawq, and that ghadab within him turns into irad, yearning, and dislike towards something. That you find it becomes more subtle. That anger, there's a direction towards it. Those desires, there's a direction towards it. Now after the soul, it comes under the command of the intellect. That the beauty of the human being is that God separated him from every other creation by giving him the intellect. The Quran, when it speaks of Adam, it says, Allama Adama asma'a kullaha. That Adam was given the names. The reason Adam was taught the names is because Adam had the capacity to handle the reality of those divine names. So you find the human being, when this shawq and irad, it is under the command of the intellect, it turns into karahat and iradat, a stronger form of dislike and like. Now we're going through a journey. We started with shahwa. This desire on the other side, it turns into shawq, yearning. That yearning turns into iradat, liking towards something. On the other side, we started with ghadab, anger. That anger turned towards disinclination, irad. That irad turns into karahat. But you find there's one more level man needs to reach to maximize his reality. That is when his intellect comes under the guidance of the Imam of his time. When his intellect is under the guidance of the Imam of his time, you find that irada turns into tawalla, that karaha turns into tabarra. That this is solidarity and disassociation. That you find that tawalla and tabarra are states of the souls of mankind. And you find these are those companions. By holding on towards Sayyid al-Shuhada, they reach the peak of these realities. And we have the same opportunity as well. You know, we have tradition after tradition emphasizing the reality of Hussein, the love of Hussein, the ziyarah of Hussein. You know, doesn't the tradition of the state that man zara al-Hussein arifan bihaqqihi kaman zara Allah fawqa arshihi. It says the one who does the ziyarah of Hussein, recognizing the right and the reality of Hussein, is like the one who has done the ziyarah of Allah fawqa al-arsh. That the arsh is that highest reality. When man wants to reach the highest realities in spirituality, it is done through the ziyarah of Sayyid al-Shuhada. I mentioned the lines of Ayatollah Bahjat, didn't I, from 2 nights ago, that when he was asked about irfan and spirituality, he said spirituality is found in 2 places. Either it is found in the majlis of Hussein or it's found in the shrine of Sayyid al-Shuhada. But now at this point, you have the right to ask the question that why are there so many different traditions? That some traditions will say that the reward for the ziyarah of Hussein is 70 Hajj. Another tradition will say 1,000 Hajj. Another tradition will say that when you go to the ziyarah of Hussein, every single step you take, you will get the reward of a Hajj. You find the answer lies in the line arifan bihaqqihi. The more one is an arif of the haqq of Hussein, the more recognition he has of the right and the reality of Hussein, you find the more that reward for the ziyarah of Hussein increases. You find these are those individuals I mentioned, that a person through attaching towards Sayyid al-Shuhada, he brings tawalla and tabarra in his life. But you find tawalla and tabarra, each of them have prerequisites. The two prerequisites for tawalla are ma'rifah and mahabba, that love and recognition. That if you want to attach yourselves towards the Imam, the first reality is recognizing the Imam. The second is having love for the Imam. And you find in the same way, tabarra has two prerequisites. The first prerequisite of tabarra is jihad, is striving. The second is hijrah and migration. Now, each of these is a topic on its own, and if I wanted to go deeper into it, I could go deeper into it. The time it doesn't allow. But very superficially explaining these two concepts, you find the first of it is migration. That when one wants to develop himself spiritually, you find migration and hijrah is a very important concept. That although from the outward we've seen migrations in history, that there is an external migration, that didn't we see Rasulullah, that in the middle of the night, Ali ibn Abi Talib, as he's sleeping on the bed of Rasulullah, the Prophet migrates from Makkah towards Medina. You know, I remember Allam al-Majlisi in Haqqul Yaqeen. He would write that there are 24 miracles associated just with the body of Rasulullah. That he writes there are 24 miracles associated just with the body of Rasulullah. One of those miracles is that there would be a light emanating from the forehead of the Prophet. You know, one of the wives of the Prophet says that if we ever lost a needle and we couldn't find that needle in the daytime by the light of the sun, we would wait for the Prophet to return and we would find it by the light from the forehead of Rasulullah. Now, when I can say one line over here, that if for a man he sleeps on the bed of the Prophet, and all night the Quraysh are confused whether this is Muhammad or not Muhammad, you find this man must have that same light and that nur emanating from him. That doesn't the Prophet say, Ana wa Aliyun min nurin wahid, that me and Ali are created from one light? You find this is an example of an external migration. But you find when it comes to the soul of the human being, there is also a migration and a movement that we take. You know, when Mullah Sadra, he writes his canonical work, the Asfar, the journeys, he divides philosophy into four categories based on the journey man makes. The first journey that man makes within his life and his spiritual development is min al-khalq ila al-haq. That, oh man, you were created. You live upon this earth. But your journey is towards your creator. This is your first journey and migration. Your second migration is bil-haq fil-haq. When you've reached the threshold of Allah, when you've realized the value of religion, the value of Allah, you submerge yourself in trying to adopt those attributes that if Allah is merciful, you are merciful. If Allah is forgiving, you are forgiving. You implement the hadith, تَخَلَّقُوا بِأَخْلَاقِ اللَّهِ, act in the mannerisms of Allah. But you find, no, this isn't enough. It's not enough to make this level of journey. Your third journey, O man, is min al-haq ila al-khalq bil-haq. That, oh man, you return towards your society. Once you have that spiritual connection, don't forget those who are around you. Don't forget your parents. Don't forget the elders in society. You know, many times I've seen people within the world, they have a great status. They've been given a great honor within their life. When you dig to the root of their honor, you find oftentimes these are individuals who are kind towards their parents, who serve their parents. You find each of those around you has a responsibility, and your fourth journey is within khalq. Fil haq khalq bil haq. That you spread the message of truth amongst the creation. So you find each of these is there. That tawalla has prerequisites, tabarra has prerequisites. And each of them has an outward and an inward as well. You find the outward of tawalla is that you go towards the imams, you go towards Allah. The inward of tawalla is you see none except Allah. That you reach that stage, La ilaha illallah. You find this kalima is very interesting. You start with tabarra in this kalima. You say La ilaha, there is no God. Then you say illallah, except Allah. You know, people, they ask the question, what is Hussein? Each person will answer according to their own angle. You find those interested in social justice will say Hussein is the supreme example of social justice. Hussein, if you ask the Arif and the mystic who is Hussein, he'll say Hussein is the one who had such a divine connection with Allah that even under the sword he would remember his creator. But if you want to understand Hussein, one way in which we can understand Sayyid al-Shuhada is that Hussein is the illa ilaha illallah. So what do I mean when I say Imam and Hussein is the illa ilaha illallah? You find this first part of the kalima la ilaha. It symbolizes kufr, disbelief, the system of kufr and disbelief. And this word Allah, it symbolizes that path to salvation. The only thing connecting disbelief to belief is the word illa. That if one wants to change his life from a life of disbelief towards belief, towards the path of Allah in the way Hur did, you find Hussein is the illa in la ilaha illallah. And you find when man has reached the peak of tawalla and tabarra, there are two outcomes within his life which Nasiruddin Tusi he writes. He says the first outcome is that there is submission and taslim within his life. The second outcome is rida and contentment. Now each of these has alamat, each of these has signs. If you want to know if you reach the status of contentment, the first out of the three signs is that you reflect upon your life. And when a difficulty befalls upon you, ask yourself, are you happy or sad at that difficulty? Now we're human beings, we have emotion. But what this means is that when something, an affliction comes down upon you, you are content with the will of Allah. That you recognize what is outside of your control is the will of Allah, and what is within your hands is your own free will. The second sign is that when Allah He commands you towards something, you don't question that command, you submit towards Allah. And the third sign is that you don't show hatred towards anyone unless they're an enemy of Allah. You find these are the signs, and all of this summary is summarized in chapter 4, verse 65, which was the verse which I recited at the beginning of the lecture, and I'll end upon this verse. You find within this verse, Allah He states, chapter 4, Surah An-Nisa, verse 65, فَلَا وَرَبِّكَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ حَتَّى يُحَكِّمُوكَ فِيمَا شَجَرَ بَيْنَهُمْ. It says, O Prophet of God, by your Lord, they will not have iman, they will not have belief until they make you the judge in between their disputes. O Rasulullah, that you are the judge in between their disputes. You find this brings in both tawalla, solidarity, and disassociation. Then after that it says, وَلَا تَجِدُوا فِي أَنفُسِهِمْ حَرَجًا, that within their souls they don't find any objections towards what you have decreed. You find this symbolizes submission and taslim. Mimma qadaita wa yusallimu taslima, and they submit towards you. You find all of these concepts, contentment, submission, tawalla, tabarra, that if I wanted to expand upon this taqreer, it would be the examination of this verse, and this verse summarizes many of the points which were made within this lecture. But you find this whole lecture was themed around the companions of Sayyid al-Shuhada. These companions, that when Imam al-Hussein, he stood alone upon the day of Ashura, he would begin to speak to the bodies of these companions. He would say, Ya Habib ibn Madahir, Ya Muslim ibn al-Awsaja, Ya Zuhair ibn al-Qayn, Ya Abtal al-Safa, that O Habib, O Zuhair, O Muslim, O brave fighters, O valiant warriors, why don't you reply to me when I call upon you? And upon this night, we remember that companion of Sayyid al-Shuhada, that throughout his journey, he may not have been with the Imam, but you find destiny would bring him towards the door of Hussein on the night before Ashura. You find when the Imam, he meets the army of Hur, time and time again, Hur would show that there was a speck of goodness within him. The Imam, he would say, "Oh Hur, on one side we will pray, on the other side your army will pray." Hur would say, "No, you are the grandson of the Prophet, you will lead all of us in prayer." You know, I narrated the incident how Sayyid al-Shuhada gave water towards these individuals yesterday. You find after that, Hur, he says to the Imam that Ibn Ziyad has ordered that I'm not allowed to let you go any farther. You find the Imam says, "Oh Hur, may your mother weep over you." Hur, he replies with those lines. He says, "If your mother was anyone other than Fatima Zahra, I would have said the same line towards you." You find I've left the rest of the musibah. Hur after this line would spend his time in reflection. But a time it comes on the night before Ashura. Upon that night in complete silence, you find Hur, he would look towards the side of the army of Sayyid al-Shuhada. He would look towards the army of Umar bin Saad. History it records that a man, he exits from the tent to go and get water for his horse. You find Hur, he begins to think to himself, he says to that man, that are we really going to kill those people tomorrow? He says, yes, we are. He may have thought that he was giving water for his horse, but the grandson of Rasulullah is thirsty. You find the time of morning it comes. What he takes a servant, he takes a son. He says, "Oh my son, as we approach the army of Hussein, tie this cloth upon my eyes, for these eyes looked at Hussein with anger." He says, "Oh my son, tie these hands behind my back, for these hands grab the reins to the camel of Sayyid al-Shuhada." You find as his son is taking his father, Abbas, he begins to approach. The son, he says that there is a man who is coming. Or he says that, "Oh man, who are you?" He says, "I am Abbas. I haven't." Or says, "Oh Abbas, we haven't come to fight. We've come to ask for forgiveness." The Imam says, "Oh Abbas, let my guest come towards me." The Imam, he looks towards Hur. Hur, he says, "Halli Tawbah," that, "Oh my master, is there any forgiveness for me?" The Imam, he says, "Oh Hur, not only have I forgiven you, but Allah has forgiven you as well. But oh Hur, forgive me." I say, "Oh Sayyid al-Shuhada, why are you asking forgiveness from Hur? What did you do to Hur?" The Imam says, "Oh Hur, you come as my guest. I don't know." He says, "Oh Hur, you've come as my guest. I don't have any water to offer you." You find Hur, he says to his master, "Oh my master, I have nothing before you, but let me sacrifice my son in your cause." You find the son of Hur, he bids farewell towards his father. He goes towards the Maktal. The son of Hur, he begins to fight and he fights. But a point he comes that he falls upon the ground. As he falls upon the ground, he sends his salam towards his father. You find Hur, he goes towards his son. But when he goes towards his son, what does he see? He sees the head of his son in the lap of Sayyid al-Shuhada. You find Hur, he says, "Oh my master, why did you go towards the son of a servant like Hur?" You find the Imam, he says one line which will break the heart. He says, "Oh Hur, a father should never see the body of his son. But I say this was before Gore. A time will come after Gore that, oh my master." Point Sayyid al-Shuhada, he goes back, or he begins to fight the army of Umar bin Saad, or he fights and he fights, but the point it came, he sends his final salam towards Sayyid al-Shuhada. When he sends his final salam, it stated that Habib ibn Madahir, Muslim bin Awsaja, they come with Sayyid al-Shuhada. Sayyidul Shu'ara, what he speaks to them, he says, oh Habib, oh Muslim, as long as you are alive, make sure an arrow doesn't go towards Hussein. But I say, oh Hor, a time will come on the day of Ashura. الله للقوم الظالمين. مات من حسين.
Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Hussein, Ya Hussein, Hussein, Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Hayya ala khairil amal, Hayya ala khairil amal, Hayya ala. Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Hayya ala khairil amal, Hayya ala khair. Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. کربلا والوں پہ یہ کیسا محرم آیا، کربلا والوں پہ یہ کیسا محرم آیا، کربلا والوں پہ یہ کیسا محرم آیا، کربلا والوں پہ سا محرم آیا، خون ٹپکتا ہوا پاس کا پرچم آیا، کربلا والوں پہ یہ کیسا محرم آیا، کربلا والوں پہ یہ کیسا محرم، خون ٹپکتا ہوا پاس کا پرچم آیا، کربلا والوں پہ یہ کیسا محرم آیا، کربلا والوں پہ جیسے جیسے میرے قاضی کا علم جھکتا گیا، جیسے جیسے میرے قاضی کا علم جھکتا گیا، پشت میں حضرت شبیر کے بھی غم آیا، خون ٹپکتا ہوا پاس کا پرچم آیا، کربلا والوں پہ یہ کیسا ماشاءاللہ، کربلا والوں پہ یہ کیسا محرم آیا، کربلا والوں پہ یہ جیسے جیسے میرے قاضی کا علم جھکتا گیا، جیسے جیسے میرے قاضی کا علم جھکتا گیا، پشت میں حضرت شبیر کے بھی غم آیا، خون ٹپکتا ہوا عباس کا پرچم آیا،
کربلا والوں پہ یہ کیسا محرم آیا، کربلا والوں پہ یہ کیسا محرم آیا، کربلا والوں پہ کربلا دیکھ لے اسلام بچانے کے لیے، کربلا دیکھ لے اسلام بچانے کے لیے، ساتھ کنبے کو لیے وارث آدم آیا، ٹوٹ پکتا ہوا آباد کا پرچم آیا، کربلا والوں پہ یہ کیسا محرم آیا، کربلا ماشاءاللہ سب بولے نام مولا رم آیا، کربلا والوں پہ یہ کیسا ظالموں اس کو تو دو بوند پلا دو پانی، ظالموں اس کو تو دو بوند پلا دو پانی، اب لبوں پر میرے شیر کا ہے دم آیا، کوٹ پکتا ہوا آباد کا پرچم آیا، کربلا والوں پہ یہ کیسا محرم آیا، کربلا والوں پہ یہ کیسا محرم آیا، کربلا والوں پہ ظالموں اس کو تو بوند پلا دو پانی، ظالموں اس کو تو بوند پلا دو پانی، اب لبوں پر میرے شیر کا ہے دم آیا، ٹوٹ پکتا ہوا آباد کا پرچم آیا، کربلا والوں پہ یہ کیسا محرم آیا، کربلا والوں پہ یہ کیا کربلا والوں پہ یہ سارے موسم تو گزر جاتے ہیں آ کر، لیکن سارے موسم تو گزر جاتے ہیں آ کر، لیکن بس ہمیشہ کے لیے موسم ماتم آیا، ٹوٹ پکتا ہوا آباد کا پرچم آیا، کربلا والوں پہ یہ کیسا محرم آیا، آیا، یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین، سائے میں سیدہ کے عزادار رہیں گے، سائے میں سیدہ کے عزادار رہیں گے، سائے میں سیدہ کے عزادار رہیں گے، جب ہوگا سوانح خورشید قیامت، جب ہوگا سوانح خورشید قیامت،
سیدا کے عزادار رہیں گے سائے میں سیدا کے عزادار رہیں گے سائے میں سیدا کے عزادار رہیں گے ہم قبر میں سو جائیں گے جب بے خبری سے ہم قبر میں سو جائیں گے جب بے خبری سے ماتم کے نشانوں ہمیں بیدار رہیں گے سائے میں سیدا عزادار رہیں گے سائے میں سیدا کے عزادار رہیں گے ایک بار ذرا نام علی لے کے تو دیکھو ایک بار ذرا نام علی لے کے تو دیکھو مشکل میں مددگار وہ ہر بار رہیں گے سائے میں سیدا کے عزادار رہیں گے سائے میں سیدا کے عزادار رہیں گے بے جان خدا سے کہا بنت اسد نے بے جان خدا نے کہا بنت اسد نے کعبے میں تو اب ہے ہر کرار رہیں گے سائے میں سیدا کے عزادار رہیں گے سائے میں سیدا کے عزادار رہیں گے جب ہوگا سانے پہ خورشید قیامت جب ہوگا سانے پہ خورشید قیامت سائے میں سیدا کے عزادار رہیں گے 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 یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین اور ذرا پہچان مجھ کو بولتا قرآن ہوں میں اور ذرا پہچان مجھ کو بولتا قرآن ہوں میں اور ذرا پہچان مجھ کو قرآن ہوں میں مرضی رب جلی ہوں مرضی رب جلی ہوں درد کا سلطان ہوں میں اور ذرا پہچان مجھ کو بولتا قرآن ہوں میں اور ذرا پہچان مجھ کو بولتا قرآن ہوں میں حسین بن علی مالک کل دے بری ہوں مٹھی میں دریا ہے میرے فطرتاً پیاسا نہیں ہوں اور میرے سینے سے لگ جا اور میرے سینے سے لگ جا آج کا مہمان ہوں میں اور ذرا پہچان مجھ کو بولتا قرآن ہوں میں اور ذرا پہچان مجھ کو قرآن ہوں میں جنگ گر ہوتی گوارا بھیجتا عباس کو میں
کچھ نہ رہتا کربلا میں ختم کرتا پیاس کو میں حق اور باطل کی لڑائی حق اور باطل کی لڑائی میں بھی ایک میزان ہوں میں اور ذرا پہچان مجھ کو بولتا قرآن ہوں میں اور ذرا پہچان مجھ کو بولتا قرآن ہوں میں سر میرا نیزے پہ ہوگا ساتھ بے چادر بھی ہوگی بالوں کا پردہ بنائے ان کی مادر بھی ہوگی مجھ پہ ہے احسان زینب مجھ پہ ہے احسان زینب دین پر احسان ہوں میں اور ذرا پہچان مجھ کو بولتا قرآن ہوں میں اور ذرا پہچان مجھ کو بولتا قرآن ہوں میں اور ذرا پہچان مجھ کو بولتا قرآن ہوں میں لوگوں یہ جنازہ ہے اسلام کے بانی کا آغاز ہو رہا ہے کربل کی کہانی کا آغاز ہو رہا ہے کربل کی کہانی کا آغاز ہو رہا ہے کربل کی کہانی کا لوگوں یہ جنازہ ہے اسلام کے بانی کا آغاز کربل کی کہانی کا آغاز کربل کی کہانی کا بی بی نے کہا بابا کربل میں چلے آنا بی بی نے کہا بابا کربل میں چلے آنا منظر میں دکھاؤں گی اکبر کی جوانی کا لوگوں یہ جنازہ ہے اسلام کے بانی کا آغاز ہو رہا ہے کربل کی کہانی کا آغاز ہو رہا ہے کربل کی کہانی کا کٹ جائیں گے بازو بھی آپاس بابا کے کٹ جائیں گے بازو بھی آپاس بابا کے تیروں سے ہوگا چھلنی مشکیزہ و پانی کا لوگوں یہ جنازہ ہے اسلام کے بانی کا آغاز ہو رہا ہے کربل کی کہانی کا آغاز ہو رہا ہے کربل کی کہانی کا لوگوں یہ جنازہ ہے اسلام کے بانی کا آغاز ہو رہا ہے کربل کی کہانی کا آغاز ہو رہا ہے کربل کی کہانی کا
صلوات علی محمد وآل محمد.
بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. السلام علیکم یا رسول اللہ، السلام علیکم یا امیر المؤمنین، السلام علیکم یا فاطمۃ الزہرا سیدۃ النساء العالمین، السلام علیکم یا حسن المجتبی، السلام علیکم یا حسین شہید کربلا، السلام علیکم جميعا شہداء کربلا ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ، السلام علیکم یا مولا ابن مولا، السلام علیکم یا غریب الغرباء السلطان ابو الحسن علي بن موسى الرضا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا مولانا يا صاحب الزمان، الأمان الأمان الأمان. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
دشمنان أهل بيت